Okay, part 3, civil unrest, and are you prepared? Listen, I had a buddy, I won't say where he worked at, but he worked at a gun store. But he was a Green Beret, and they had did some tests one time, and they called the ambulance, they called the Pizza Hut, and they called the cops. God is my witness, I'm not lying to you. The pizza got there for the rest of them. Well, why am I telling you that? Well, I'll tell you, they generally get there after the crime's committed. They don't generally get there to stop it, okay? So having said that, you know, in dangerous situations, persons cannot depend on an agency of the government to protect them. As an example, watch this. I'll give you a prime example. What happened in Louisiana during Hurricane Katrina. Police officers took care of their own families. This should not be unusual for anyone to understand. They did what they felt they needed to do in dangerous times. So if history shows in a bad economic times crime goes up, you better take steps to protect yourself and your loved ones from harm. And back to the Katrina thing. The cops fled and they took care of their families, and you know, in a way I don't blame them, okay? But you know, when you swore an oath and put the badge on, it's protect and serve. Or get the daggum stuff off the cop car if you ain't gonna do it. You just get it off of it and say screw you on the side of it, okay? But in any event, I won't go no further with that. And like I said, there are good cops and good military, okay? But a lot of them, you got to watch them. But having said that, you know, they came in and Blackwater and all them, and they took the law-abiding citizens' weapons from them in Katrina and left them helpless, okay? They took their weapons. Number one, if I'd have been living there at that point in time, and the grace of God I wasn't, I probably wouldn't be making these videos, because I would have fought to death to protect my property and my Second Amendment right. Now, you know, they beat up on a 70-year-old lady and all that, and if you go back and look at the videos of Katrina, you can see that what would take place during civil unrest and martial law, except on a massive, massive scale. And then we would have to take, and we would have to make our own decisions. Are you going to fight for liberty and life and happiness, or are you going to stick your hands out and say, here, Mr. Officer, just take my guns? I mean, give me a break, dude. That is your only defense to keep America free, is the Second Amendment. Let's don't ever forget that, people. Let's don't ever forget it. Let me move on. Now listen. If you know, if you were to have made a bet, in which if you go back to July and look at my video, I told y'all that Barack Hussein Obama was going to be elected. And one of the reasons I knew that was God told me. The second reason I also backed it up, because out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word shall be established. I had done a survey and a search and a study on the American people of what their pastimes were, which is, and I'm probably not talking to you if you're watching this video, but a lot of their pastime was MTV, video games, football games, and NASCAR races, anything to do with but researching where we're at and what's going on behind the scenes in the federal government and politically. So therefore, they didn't even know. They just knew that he was saying hope and change. But what he was actually saying was, I hope you got some change in your pocket, because I'm coming to get it. Okay? But in any event, this ain't about him. I'm sick to death of talking about him. Okay? But in any event, let's move on. Alright, watch this. One area that can create violence in America would be the inauguration. Okay? After the inauguration. And I'll tell you why I say that. Based on, in which a lot of them lie, based on what Biden and Powell and all them said, that, you know, he's going to face a crisis, okay? You know, not so distant future, okay? I mean, they might have been just mouthing off and fear-mongering, but I don't think so. You know, a lot of politicians have loose lips. They can't keep their mouth shut, and he may have slipped up and said something he shouldn't have said. But in any event, let's move on from that. We live in a dangerous time, and we better take precautions against violence. You know, listen. You cannot expect to be immune from violence in the future. Okay? I'm not saying walk around scared to death every day of your life, but what I'm saying is prepare yourself physically and mentally that could come down the pipeline and you could have to deal with it. Okay? So, mentally, psychologically, physically, prepare yourself spiritually that you will be ready to face that confrontation. And the number one thing is going to be this, that you're going to come out on top and you won't be defeated by it. You understand me? There is no option of losing in this survival thing that I'm talking to you about right now. We cannot lose this, okay? You know, I mean, look at the violent thug gangs that took over in L.A. and all that. It's because the cops are a bunch of chicken doo-doos, and they don't want to go mess with them. They want to come kick the door down, you know, of an innocent person and take their gun without a warrant, but they don't want to go mess with the gangs because, you know what, they'll open up a can of whip-a on them, you see. You understand me? If they would go in there and deal with them and make an example out of some of them and protect these neighborhoods of these older ladies and all that don't have the ability to defend themselves, and the cops would go do their job, then you know, the crime rate would go down. But it's not. It's escalating. Okay. They could have stopped the drugs a long time ago, but the Bush regime and Prescott, all of them. I mean, the Afghan war, everything. It just smells of drugs. Okay, all of it. They could have stopped it already. They could have killed every friggin' Mexican that come over the border. And I don't have anything against legal Mexicans over here, but them jokers is coming up from the border and bringing their drugs. By God, if they sat down there with a 50 cal and plenty of bandolets, buddy, and they seen them and started coming over, and they knew they had drugs, if they blowed their butt away and let the buzzards eat them and sent an example, and Fox News and CNN covered that and said, whoa, boys, y'all might want to take another route, you know, we could get something done. But they're not going to do that, okay? They're going to be politically correct with them, and the two agents that shot the guy serving time, okay, you know, it's ridiculous. I mean, everything is bass backwards in America. I'll tell you how backwards it is. Now, you watch this old country boy tell you something. America is so screwed up. And listen to this. Send this out to your friends. They'll get a good laugh over it. America is so screwed up that we park in the driveway and drive on the parkway. Now, if that ain't bass backwards, I don't know what is. But anyway, there's just a little something thrown out there. Let's move on. All right, listen. How many times has a neighbor borrowed something from you? Now multiply that one neighbor by additional 500 people wanting something from you. Now check this out. That's the reasonable number of people within a 1 mile radius of your home that might want something that you possess. Consider that these people will not ask for anything. They will take what they want. Are you currently prepared to stop them? That's my question. And that's based on a survey that a guy did a lot of surveying on. And just think, if you live in a very populated area, there'll be one person that'll come and want to borrow something from you, but there's 500 more when times get tough that saying, I'm coming to take it. Okay? Because number one, their butts didn't prepare. And number two, they ain't got enough courtesy to come knock on the door and ask, can they have a meal? Or they need a jacket, they gonna come take it, or the list goes on and on and on. Okay? So, we have got to be prepared for that. Okay? Now, listen. Food, clothing, medicine, tools are just some of the things that others might want from you. This is what happens during anarchy. Study it. Even before it gets bad. Some will try to steal things from you for drugs or to pawn for money. Now, proven example. Wilcox County, Georgia. There was a spry gun robberies. I mean, bam. I mean, nice guns. They break in, they get the guns, they go to another house and do this. This happened just not too long ago. They caught him in Aspirin, you know, and arrested them, thank goodness, but they were after guns, after guns, after guns, after guns, after guns. I mean, this stuff is going to escalate. It's going to become almost like a disease, people, and we had better be ready for it, okay? We had better be prepared to take action. You know, there are certain times that you could pepper spray somebody. There's going to be certain times that you can give them a 5-knuckle introduction. And I'm not a promoter of violence, okay? You know what I'm saying? You know, there's certain times that, I mean, seriously, you may have to take something like Melissa was talking about. You may have to take a fire extinguisher for somebody to get them off of you. And then there are certain times that you have to make the decision that you're going to have to use deadly force because they will not back up and leave you alone, okay? These are things that I will sit down and I will talk about with my family. I will discuss it with my wife, my husband, whoever's watching this. I will discuss it with my teenage daughters and my boys. And I would say, look, we need a plan of action in the event that something happens, okay? I'm coming back with another part. Y'all don't